Hello Internet, it's me Josh, the Aging Gamer. So it's that time of year, my favorite time of year, Halloween. So of course I want to go ahead and review a nice spooky retro game. What better time than now to go ahead and talk about the cult classic, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Zombies Ate My Neighbors was a game developed by LucasArts and published by Konami. The game itself is a homage to classic horror films like Dracula, The Mummy, and Night of the Living Dead, as well as slasher flicks like Friday the 13th, Child's Play, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Zombies Ate My Neighbors, or Zombies as it's known outside of America, contains horror, humor, and surprisingly deep gameplay, and it was something really different from the typical platformer genre that we were getting an insane amount of at the time. It's certainly a game that's remembered fondly, but after all these years, how does it hold up? Well, let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Zombies Ate My Neighbors. So, Zombies Ate My Neighbors was released on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis back in 1993. While the story isn't really explained within the game itself, there is a simple plot to this game. The evil Dr. Tongue, a mad scientist, has created a bunch of monsters that are taking over the world. You play as either Zeke or Julie, or both in two-player mode. They're on a mission to save their neighbors, kill monsters, and put a stop to Dr. Tongue. You know, that's actually pretty cool of Zeke and Julie to do that. I've seen firsthand in a worldwide pandemic, people get selfish and greedy and just self-centered and they don't care about anyone. So the fact that Zeke and Julie are saving the world, good for them. When picking between Zeke and Julie, it doesn't really matter. They play the same. It just comes down if you want to play as a boy or a girl. So each level is one big area that you must explore and seek out neighbors, or victims as the manual calls them, to rescue. Use your little people tracker for assistance in finding them. To save a victim, simply walk up to them. You'll save a variety of people, but saving babies, dogs, and blonde cheerleaders gives you the most points. Which makes sense to me. In a real zombie apocalypse, I'd want to save all the babies, all the animals, and all the hotties too. That's high priority. Just make sure you get to the victims before the monsters do, because there's two different ways to lose at this game. One way is of course getting yourself killed by these monstrosities. The second way to lose is when all the victims are killed, so don't let those zombies eat your neighbors. This can get pretty difficult pretty quickly though, so you start off the first level with 10 victims. Save all 10 and you'll have to save 10 in the next stage. But say you lose 2 victims in the first stage and you only save 8 of them, then you're only going to be able to save 8 in the next stage, and then so on and so on. Hypothetically, you can lose all your victims except for one, and only have to save 1 victim in each level. And while saving only 1 victim sounds easy, remember if that single victim gets killed, you'll lose. This can get pretty challenging because there's 48 levels in this game. You don't have to just worry about keeping those poor helpless victims alive, you gotta keep yourself alive as well! You gain more victims to appear in levels by racking up a bunch of points, so there is a little bit of leeway here. Originally, the developers wanted to put in a save system for this game, but it wasn't in the budget, so they settled with the good old password system. This is pretty great, but also a double-edged sword, because it will actually make the game a bit harder when you use passwords. When you use passwords, you get to whatever level you're trying to go to, but you only have your default weapons, a water gun and a single health packet. These later levels are pretty difficult with the high enemy counts and the more difficult to kill enemies that appear. It's tough using just your squirt gun. But hey, since we're on the subject, let's talk about weapons. There's a variety you'll collect throughout the game, like bazookas, weed whackers, soda cans, popsicles, footballs, dishes. What? There's also a lot of defensive weapons like health kits, speed shoes, decoys, and potions that turn you into a giant purple beast. Now what's pretty cool about this game is that the weapon system is kinda deep, and every weapon is useful in its own way. For example, the bazooka is not only great for blowing enemies up to smithereens, but they're great for breaking down certain obstacles out of your way. The werewolves are pretty tough to fight, but throwing silverware at them does a lot more damage. Also, spraying an enemy with a fire extinguisher not only freezes them in place, but also makes them 50% weaker when frozen. It's cool stuff like that that just makes the game great. So now let's talk about my favorite part of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, all of its tributes to the whole horror movie film genre. Now this game is jam-packed with references to older movies. Werewolves, vampires, mummies, and the creature from the Black Lagoon are the obvious ones, but some of my favorites include the enemy called Stanley Decker, the Chainsaw Maniac, who is a delightful mixture of Jason Voorhees and Leatherface. There's also Tommy the Evil Doll, that's a reference to Chucky from Child's Play. Sometimes the doll even bursts into fire and will still try to kill you, just like in the movie. There's plants that grow clones, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, giant ants like the movie Them, the worm snake monsters that references Tremors, and Dr. Tongue being a parody of Dr. Frankenstein. But the references don't end there. A majority of the levels' names are references to movies, like Evening of the Undead being a reference to Night of the Living Dead, Mars Needs Cheerleaders to Mars Needs Women, Chopping Mall to Chopping Mall, 7 Meals for 7 Zombies to 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, Nightmare on Terror Street to Nightmare on Elm Street, The Day the Earth Ran Away to The Day the Earth Stood Still, Martians Go Home to, well, Martians Go Home, and many, many more. This game really knows its stuff, and it's presented very well. I love the splash screens for each level. It makes each stage feel like an episode rather than, just stage 9 or stage 10 or whatever. And that title screen at the beginning of the game is so simple and so eerie. I love it. And the music is really great here too. As you progress through the game, you'll hear a lot of the same spooky songs over and over, but the ones here are just the right kind of spooky and fun sounding for a game like this. This one in particular is my favorite. So that's Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Overall, I think the game still holds up. I might be a bit biased due to my love for horror, but the game was unlike anything I've played at the time, and since really. The game starts off simple enough, but it gets surprisingly deep the further you go along. It's not just a zombie killer game, it's a game of survival, and I feel the gameplay works very well. Visually, the game looks great too. It's horror, but it's cartoony enough that kids can play it too. The music and sound effects are great on the ears too. But if I had to nitpick on this game, my only real negative about Zombies Ate My Neighbors is that the game does kind of drag on, and on, and on. Like I mentioned, the game is 48 levels long, not including the bonus levels, and it feels like you've been playing forever if you even survive till the end. And while there is quite a variety of enemies in this game, you'll start seeing the same enemies quite a bit, combined with the fact that there's only a handful of different themed levels, and the game will start to feel repetitive. There's only 10 different types of victims to save, so even they start feeling repetitive. But with that said, Zombies Ate My Neighbors is still a solid one-of-a-kind title. Even its sequel, Ghoul Patrol, wasn't able to capture the magic that this game did. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is one of those titles that you can really just see there was some TLC from the developers. And hell, the credits are a level itself, and you can talk to the whole LucasArts staff. This game has plenty of uniqueness, and there's lots of secrets. There's secret levels, and there's even a secret flamethrower weapon that I had no idea about. I really recommend trying this game out if you haven't already, especially around the Halloween season like we're in now. Grab a friend and get some 2-player zombie killing action going. But these are just my opinions. What do you guys think? What do you think of Zombies Ate My Neighbors? You like the game? You hate the game? You excited for Halloween? Let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and give this video a like if you liked it. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. And like always, I thank you guys for watching. Until next time, Happy Halloween!